Well, we'd like to welcome you to our City Council meeting tonight. We appreciate your attendance here. We'd like to welcome any visitors who are here or any youth that are here for school purposes or scout purposes. We're very grateful for you being here. If you are here for school purposes, you are more than welcome to come up and sit with us on the rostrum up here. There's candy. That's a bribe. It's a legitimate political bribe, but you're welcome to come up. We usually have the school kids come up and sit with us, and you're just more than welcome to come up. The adults are not welcome, so just so you know. We'll begin our council meeting by having an invocation by Councilmember Wright, after which Councilmember Snelson will give our pledge.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day and grateful for our many blessings and grateful that we can gather as citizens to participate in today's meeting. We are also grateful, Father, for the efforts of the Springville City staff for beautifying our city, especially at this holiday time. And we pray that we will be able to do those things that will be beneficial to us as residents and to our city. And we ask for these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. If all could rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the meeting's agenda as presented.
I'll move to approve the meeting's agenda as written.
I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we invite anyone here for public comment, give you a chance to address the City Council. You get 3 minutes in which you're able to address it, but you'll need to fill out a form. I have one here. They're outside in the foyer part, and you get them over to Kim, and so that she can record them. And we'll give you an opportunity in just a few minutes to be able to give public comment. But we would like to turn some time over to Jessica Maxwell, who is here, that would like to do some youth presentations. So Jessica, thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm so excited to be here tonight. Thank you for having us. We're here to recognize some of our outstanding youth in Springville. My name, just for information, is Jessica Maxwell, and I am I wrote it down so I didn't forget, Community Health and Wellness Resource Coordinator for the City of Springville. So I work over at the library. Tonight we have 3 young women to recognize, and we'll start with Amelia. Amelia, if you'll join me. Wonderful. This is Amelia Fowler. She was nominated for recognition by her youth leader, Janessa Zaire, and she goes by Millie, and Millie is in the 8th grade at Springville Junior High. Janessa has been impressed with Millie since she met her over a year ago. She is a beacon of strength in her family. She is the oldest of 4 children and takes such great care of her 3 younger siblings who have different health and learning struggles. Amelia is a light, consistently showing kindness and care for others, no matter who they are. She participates in local dance and theater classes and always working to improve her talents. Everyone loves being around Millie because of her good attitude and fun personality. We recognize Millie for her incredible example to those around her. Please applaud. All right, June, if you'll come up. This is June Davis, and she was nominated by her neighbor, Taylor. June is in 10th grade at Springville High School. She is the oldest of 5 siblings. This last summer, June dealt with opposition when she and her younger sisters had to stay elsewhere while their family's home was undergoing some construction work. The repairs took longer than was expected, and June remained positive and patient through the whole process. She is an example of uncomplaining service to her family and others. She often reaches out and serves others without even being asked, even through her own hardships. We recognize June for her service and kindness to others. Katie, if you'll please come up. All right, this is Katie Stoltz, and her nominator actually wished to remain anonymous. So Katie is in 9th grade at Springville Junior High. Though she had a premature start in life with many medical odds against her, Katie is a glowing example of what overcoming those odds can look like. Last summer, Katie competed at the national level with the junior high FCCLA group, and she consistently serves those around her with a cheerful attitude. She helps care for her disabled uncle as well as her aging grandmother, who sadly passed away this last summer. Katie is kind, caring, funny, hardworking, and resilient. She has natural curiosity and a great work ethic that drive her forward and help her knock down any obstacles that she faces. Katie also serves as the leader in her church Young Women's volunteer group, and we recognize Katie for her kindness, service, perseverance, and resiliency. Yes, perfect. Oh, I said. Yes, parents are invited to come take a few photos.
Well, it's been a few months since we've had some of the youth awards, and we're very grateful for that program, the chance to honor our youth. It doesn't take very much to find some youth that are really good. We oftentimes hear of youth that are troubled and they have issues, and sure there are those, but this is a perfect example of some wonderful young women who are great strengths to our society, and we appreciate them. And we certainly look forward to some great things from them. So thank you for being an example to all of us and adults too. So thank you. Okay, we'll come to the part of the meeting for the public. I have Patrick Stevens, who is here. We'll give you 3 minutes and give you a chance to address the City Council. The City Council can't act on anything that you say, but this is just an opportunity for you to express whatever you'd like to, and so we'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you that long, really cool. I had a cold in my hair, but I was in my car, so.
That's okay. I'm not into hair, so
Anyway,
if that
my
it
name
makes
is
it.
Patrick C. Stevens. I spent 4 years in the military, 26 years in law enforcement, retiring as a criminal investigator, 10 years for Grand Casinos as Director of Security in Biloxi, Mississippi, and I'm here to find out where I live. You have the only ordinance in the United States, and you can call, that is this ridiculous. I can stay at KOA, and I've got a lot of seniors now. We're buying big fifth wheels to live in. I was already evicted from there once last year. Had to move to Ely, Nevada. Was the only place I could find where I used to live. I met other people. They have a nice row of where senior citizens live year-round. Here, the city ordinance, I won't tell you why. I found out why that ordinance was passed some time ago, where the city makes them keep a little file on everybody there, and if you're there more than 120 days in 1 year, you have to leave. Now, December 1st, I've only spent 100 days there, December 31st. But now I can stay 4 more months because it's 120 days of the new year. Motor vehicles and driver's license have to move back and forth at my age in Nevada. They won't let me have my driver's license at a P.O. box. So I have to take the test all over. I'm no more eligible to take the test. I shouldn't be driving. The reason I drove down here is they need to get rid of that ordinance. I've called KOA National Headquarters. I've called all over Utah. They're laughing at it. They've never heard nothing like this, where the city tells you how long you can stay. That's up to the owner. That came in a dispute over the land with somebody who had great influence with the city council. didn't like that the landowner outbid him, and that's how it happened. And I want that removed. The first place when they removed me last year, I went to Nephi, and the first woman I talked to at a campground, she said, well, yes. Started crying. I got removed from there. The city evicted me, told me I had to leave. No exceptions. I was standing there taking my husband to the cancer clinic every day, every week, once a week at Huntsman. The city still told me there's no exceptions of move. I had to move to Nephi. Some weeks I couldn't make it. My husband died. This is happening over and over. I went 2 weeks ago to my dermatologist in Provo because all my heart doctors and everything are here from when I had a house here. Talking to him, and he's had 2 cases of people who had diseases and different thing else with their family were made to move because their 120 days were up that year. What do? Where am I going to move this? Back to Ely for $1,000? $1,600 for the siding? Then I have to put it in a storage unit for $75 a month. Well, I'm over there, and if I was going to stay the winter, I'd have to have a truck haul all that stuff over there. I can't stay there. It's 1,000 feet higher. Can't shovel that 4 feet of snow every other day anymore, even though I have a lot of friends. A lot of them live year-round now in the KOA. Times have changed. This isn't 15 years ago. We have new phones. It's ridiculous, the city telling me, well, you can live here 10 days now, 20 days now, 30 days now, but you can't live here more than 120 days. But right now it's going to be more than 120, but now I can live another 120 because it's the first of the year. I want to retire and live in a nice place where I can see the mountains in that. I want to give up my car license tomorrow, my driver's license, because I can have Uber come and pick me up, bring me to the doctor, bring me to my heart specialist in Provo. I can call Smith's, have them deliver the groceries. I shouldn't be driving. I have to.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your coming.
That ordinance is, like I said, everybody laughs at it. I've had an attorney look. And I'll tell you, I'm not a threatening person. I don't want any publicity. But I had lunch with a guy from Channel 2 who wants me to give him the names and addresses of all the people that they've evicted over 120 days that have serious health problems, that didn't know where to go or nothing. I don't want to get on a television program. I'm trying to do what's right here.
Well,
And if
we appreciate you
examine
coming. We
this
appreciate
is
you.
the silliest thing that I've ever seen.
We appreciate you coming and bringing that to our attention,
There's
so.
a little bit criminal in that over the way it started, believe me.
All right. Well, thank you very much for coming. Okay, we have, from the consent agenda, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. Anything that needs to be pulled off and discussed at all? Okay, I'm sorry, sir. We've given you an opportunity. Thank you very much. I need to have a motion on the consent agenda then.
I'll motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
Okay, a second.
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Whoops, that's a roll call vote, is it? Nope. Oh, okay. Very good. Okay, we're going to consider a resolution. Mr. Penrod, if you just kind of bring us up to date on this, and then I can maybe add some color to it, if that's helpful to you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, City Council. This agreement before you is an interlocal cooperation agreement with Utah County. Anytime we enter into a cooperation agreement with another government agency, it needs to come before the council to be approved by resolution. This agreement, what it covers is Utah County has a winter response task force, and they also have a winter plan for this winter for homeless. And as part of that plan, they have asked us to donate towards that plan, or pay towards that plan, $100 per every 1,000 residents. And so what the agreement does is is for $3,500 to go to the county for this plan. This plan has gone to the Utah Office of Homeless Services and has been approved by that office. And so again, it's not a lot of money. It's a one-time payment. The agreement does say it could go for longer, but it only really puts on the city the $3,500 for this year. So they might come back next year with something more, but would have to agree to that.
So I'm on the task force, this homeless task force, and this is the intent of what was here was to help to pay for some of the capital expenses that they've had to do. They're asking all the cities in the valley who are here to donate, but it's voluntary. If you don't want to do it, it's okay. But the shelter, one of the shelters, I think there are 2 or 3 shelters, but one of the shelters is here at the county building, in which they've had to do some remodeling and do some things. The county has put in about $200,000 to renovate one of their buildings, and they're not asking for a reimbursement of it. This is just for ongoing, for example, for partitions in between beds and that sort of thing. We, by state law, have to provide, help me, John, about 70 warming beds when the weather is very cold outside. It's a blue, what they call a blue night or something.
Yes, and there are some other laws that are associated with that, dealing with even some of our public places outside and a few things that way. So yes.
And a homeless person doesn't have to go to the warming shelter, but they are all invited to go there. And so some of them choose to stay outside, but for those who do go, this needs to be a place where they can go and have an opportunity to get warm so that they don't pass away.
In my understanding, the county building that's closest to us is actually on Ironton Hill, so it is fairly close to Springville.
It is.
Mayor,
Yes.
so just very quickly, just to keep the council fully apprised, on the dollar side, from a service level standpoint, the city is obligated to participate in helping to pay for homeless services. That's done through a reduction in our sales tax. I don't have the exact number, but it's it's between $100,000 and $120,000 per year that the city is paying for those services to a state fund that are then allocated out. You also have in your legislative budget a donations line. So we have dollars allocated for these types of things that arise during the course of the year. You don't have a lot of dollars that are unallocated, but there are sufficient to cover this particular request.
So it's my recommendation to do it, but what questions do you have about it?
Seems like a relatively inexpensive way to help.
Okay.
Agree.
All right.
Got
then
a
I need a
motion to approve Resolution 2024-33, authorizing entering into an interlocal agreement with Utah County for the purpose of providing aid to the homeless.
Okay.
I will second that.
Okay. Thanks, Logan. Craig?
Yes.
Logan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mindy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, John. Okay, we need a public hearing in relationship to Springville Public Safety IFFP Impact Fee Facility Plan, so.
Yes, Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce Lee Johnson. He's a consultant with Zion's Public Finance. They pulled together our impact fee analysis, impact fee facilities plan, and impact fee analysis. He'll give you a presentation tonight for our public hearing. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Lance, for the introduction. So, as he said, my name is Lee Johnson. I'm with Zion's Public Finance. I'm a financial consultant on the consulting team over there. And I worked with Susie Becker to prepare these fees, and I'm here to present them to you today. So, one thing I like to do before we discuss the fees is do a quick little review of what an impact fee is. So, as a reminder, an impact fee is a one-time fee charged to new development to offset the capital costs associated with new development. So, in other words, all of the new development that's coming in, the new residents, the new businesses, they're putting some strain and some costs on the current infrastructure and services that are provided by the city, and impact fees are a way to mitigate those costs and to assess those costs fairly to new and current citizens and residents. The impact fees can only cover costs of system improvements, and in this case, for public safety, This includes police and fire stations and relevant training facilities. It also includes fire vehicles costing over $500,000, and each impact fee must come with an impact fee facilities plan and an impact fee analysis, often abbreviated as IFFP and IFA. So going over the IFFP, which typically precedes the IFA, these are elements that are found within existing service levels, proposed service levels, excess capacity, demand created by new development, consumption of excess capacity, and new facilities needed and cost. Those are the elements that are required by Utah State Code to be included. Under the IFA, you can find proportionate share analysis, buy-in and analysis of excess capacity, construction costs, other relevant and eligible costs, as well as financing and credits. Now, the presentation I'm showing you today is a rough or more concise way to present how we've come to the new proposed fee. If you want to learn more in detail of how these fees were calculated, you can find that through the IFFP and IFA. So when we were calculating these new impact fees, the first thing we did is identified the time frame of the study, which is from 2024 this year to 2030, and we calculated the number of residential units and the number of residential square feet. You might see or notice that the year 2023 is on here. That's not included in the study time area, but those indicate the actual numbers from the year 2023. Using those actual numbers, we were able to project residential units and non-residential square feet growth far into the future for the study period. After we calculated the growth, we worked with Police Chief Lance Haight, as well as Chief of Fire Henry Clinton, to discuss the calls for service that the police department, the fire department received. Taking the information that they've given us and discussing it with them, we were able to sort these calls and divide them into residential and non-residential calls to get a total number of calls. Using the same projections I discussed previously, we were able to project these calls out into the future. You can see on the slide that one of the columns says total impact fee eligible calls and total calls. There's a discrepancy there, and that's because of the pass-through calls. So these pass-through calls are calls that aren't going to be counted when calculating impact fees. And an example of what a pass-through call might be is if someone is traveling through Springville City, down south to Santa Quin or some other location, and they get pulled over within the city limits of Springville, that will be recorded as a police call for service, but that person likely, well, as someone that's passing through, isn't a resident of the area and isn't benefiting from the services that the public safety department is providing. So because of that, those are removed, and that explains the discrepancy in those numbers for total impact fee eligible calls as well as total calls. After doing that, we did the same thing with the fire calls. So the same methodology was applied. We have the same information presented here. And you can see that typically there's much less calls for the fire department and emergency medical services than there are for the police service. So the facilities in question and the ones that are referred to in the IFFP and the IFA, the current facilities for police only includes the police square footage in the Civic Center, which is where we are right now. The square footage that is included only includes the square footage allocated to the police department and does not include any square footage for holding cells or other spaces like that. And for fire, the square footage that is counted comes from Station 41 as well as Station 42. Future facilities that are mentioned are the expansion of Fire Station 42 within the next 6 years, increasing the square footage by 9,000 square feet, and the replacement of an existing ladder truck and the replacement of one existing fire engine, one of which is already in process. So taking all of that information that we've discussed and projecting all of those numbers into the future, what we do is we calculate the calls per residential unit or calls per non-residential square foot. This is what allows us to calculate impact fees appropriately. So under the police section, you can see that there's 1.81 calls per residential unit, and under calls per residential unit under fire, it's 0.1521. What this is saying is for every residential unit or household in Springville City, on average, each household makes 1.81 calls for, well, result in 1.81 calls for police, whether that's traffic call or otherwise. And the same concept is applied for fire. And instead of units for commercial properties, we do a metric of square footage rather than a residential unit. After we take that, we calculate the current and proposed levels of service. This is done by taking the total number of calls that was recorded, as well as taking that facility square footage from relevant police and fire facilities. What we do is we take the entire square footage for police and for fire, and we divide it by the total number of calls to get a current level of service. For police in the year 2023, using actual data, it was 1.27 square feet per call, and for fire it was 11.94 square footage per call. Now, Utah State Code says that we cannot raise the level of service for the proposed level of service in the future. So to calculate the proposed level of service for police, we did identify that there was excess capacity for calls with current police facilities. The number of calls that the police department the capacity that the police facilities have is a total of 38,995 calls. So what we do is we take that capacity number of calls and divide that by the square footage that is available, and we get a proposed level of service of 0.83 square feet per call. For the fire department and fire facilities, we've identified that there is some excess capacity, but it's expected to be reached in 2026. So the number of calls will be exceeded after that time. But the proposed level of service was calculated the same way. The total capacity calls for that facility aren't listed here, but can be found in the IFA. The IFFP, but the proposed level of service will therefore be 11.37 square feet per call. After we do that, to continue our calculation of the impact fees, the first step we typically take is to calculate the total cost per call. So what we do is we take facilities as well as other eligible costs, in this case interest costs for a bond that's outstanding, as well as the consultant costs for the work that we do at Zion's Public Finance. We allocate that to the number of calls that are expected to grow from 2024 to 2030 to allocate those costs proportionately and fairly to new development. So by taking these facilities, interest costs, consultant costs, and allocating them to the projected growth for new residents and new businesses, these are the numbers that we get. More in-depth calculations and step-by-step information on how these numbers were derived can be found in the IFA. So after we calculate the summary cost per call, we need to apply some credits because there is a Series 2008 bond outstanding, a lease revenue bond that will be maturing in the year 2031. And so what we do here is we take that bond payment information, allocate it appropriately and accordingly to police as well as to fire, and calculate the amount to existing development. Now, the reason we do this is to make sure that new development doesn't double pay for what current development has already paid for the facilities that they are benefiting from. So to ensure that they're not double paying, what we do is we calculate these amounts to existing development, and then take the projected number of calls of service and divide that amount by the calls to get a payment per call credit. And what we do is we take those cash flows year over year and calculate an NPV value using a 3% discount rate to calculate the following credits under the NPV column of these charts for year over year for the impact fee payment for the study period. So at the very end, final column, you can see the credits that are going to be applied for new development when they're paying their impact fees. And on this previous slide for cost per call, those credits are going to be applied against these fees that were calculated here for cost per call. So earlier we calculated the calls per unit, and what we do is we take that 1.81 calls per resident, and we multiply that by the cost per call. The same thing is applied for non-residential square footage, and you can see that this results in these fees for 2024. You can also notice that under fire, there's an additional 2 columns for vehicle costs. That's because the replacement of the fire ladder and the fire engine impact fees can only be issued to new commercial development and not residential development. So that's why we see that 3-cent increase per square footage for commercial fire square footage and not for police commercial square footage. So taking all that information, we can create this table applying the credit year over year, and we can see that because year over year that NPV credit from the bond is diminishing as there are less periods of credits being applied, that the total per year is slowly going up, not by any substantial amount, but it is climbing throughout the study period. And these are the impact fees that we're presenting to you today. Now, it's also natural to ask yourself where we are in comparison to our peers in other cities. So here's a graph as well as a chart of the information of the previous or current Springville public safety fee at $461 and how it's proposed to be increasing to $1,098.78 for the year 2024. The average for these Utah County cities that charge a public safety impact fee is around $666. So we do note that it's a substantial increase, but this is because of the new facilities that are coming for the fire department, as well as the lagging inflation that's coming from the inconsistent regularity of renewing these impact fees or other fees that the city charges. On this next slide, I will start by saying that the the proposed total fee is currently incorrect. There's some information that I didn't apply, but the other numbers are correct. And this gives you an idea of when developers come in, how much they can expect to pay in total fees, including hookup fees and other special district fees for building a single family home in cities throughout Utah County. So you can see that Springville is right at the average. And even though the proposed amount that I'm presenting on this slide is incorrect, it's not going to be too much higher, maybe a city or two higher, once the other impact fee proposals are enacted or accounted for. So that is everything I have prepared for you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you may have any.
What facility is that, excuse me, that bond for? Is that the fire department, What is the bond?
So I believe that the bond, from the information that we had, it went to the Civic Center as well as the fire facilities.
Okay. I thought that's what it was. I just wanted to solidify that.
Yeah. And yeah, under Appendix Figure A, the allocation of the square footage and total space at the very top, that's the allocation of payments that we calculated.
So is the allocation for that bond credit just for the square footage that the police department uses in the Civic Center?
Yes.
Okay.
So on a previous screen, you had the residential and non-residential fees for the fire and police, $1,098.78 and then 33 cents. Do you add those together and that should be what the impact fee would be, or what's the 33 cents, I guess?
So the 33 cents is the impact fee charge for non-residential square footage. So for example, if let's say a business was building a new business that was 2,000 square feet, the impact fee that they would pay, that business, would be 33 cents times each square foot. Okay. So 33 cents times 2,000 in that example.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay, other questions?
This one's maybe more for Director Yost or Chief Haight. Did the community board kind of dig into the details on this, or is that something? Does this fall under the community board umbrella or advisory board? So they had a chance to look at this, or? Oh, the planning commission. Okay, thank you.
Very good question. Okay, other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion then. Oh, wait a minute. I need to open up for public hearing, sorry. Okay, if you want to step down just for a second and we'll just open it up for public comment. Anyone who would like to come to the podium and make a public comment is welcome to do so.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Okay, have
I'll
a
second.
motion, second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed?
I'll make a motion to approve the public safety impact fee facility plan impact fee analysis and the resulting impact fee changes and adopt ordinance number 23-2024.
Okay, I have a motion. I need a second.
I'll second.
It's a roll call vote. Logan?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
Mindy?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Stapley, we have a transportation impact fee.
Thanks, Lee.
Thank you for coming. If you're driving to Salt Lake, there's as much traffic going to Salt Lake as coming, so probably not now, though.
Thank you, Mayor. The last time we met, we talked about 4 different master plans. We're going to be going through the transportation master plan only this time, using the same format that we did in the others. Again, just noting that we've already talked with the council about the transportation master plan in a work session where Chris Wilson gave a good presentation. We also talked with the Planning Commission on this and got their approval. So tonight you're looking at 3 separate documents. The master plans we do every 3 to 5 years. The impact fee facility plan, the impact fee analysis annually. So tonight we're going to be looking at the master plan itself, also the impact fee facility plan, and then the amended transportation impact fee analysis. And as I said, we talked with we did not go to the utility board on this. That's a typo, or I should have taken it out, because the utility board doesn't handle transportation. But we did go to the Planning Commission. And of course, we talked in the work session. And all the proper posting and noticing has been taken care of in this endeavor. Again, we've showed you this before. We're focusing on kind of the reddish-orange line, transportation. And this is where we sit with the other ones. We'll come back to this slide in a little bit. Again, we have this discussion where Utah law says growth pays for itself. It balances. You've seen this before. The council has the ability to enact the maximum allowable, or they can step that back and to go with something less that they feel like that's is appropriate. In doing that, staff recommends that if you do that what you're doing is you're balancing that. You're going off balance. That's at least where the staff comes from on this. Levels of service in transportation. We talk about lane capacities. We go with the level of service D. This is not like grades in school. They call it a level of service D. And so, for example, a 3-lane roadway can handle about 15,100 cars per day, and so forth. So you can look at the different sizes of 5-lane road and so forth. We also looked at intersection delays. How long are you sitting at an intersection? Again, we look at the level of service D. Anywhere from 35 to 55 seconds is appropriate. Unsignalized, it would be a little bit less than that. And so as we go through and model this in the modeling itself, we look at how that, at each intersection is affected and so forth. The existing level of service now, we do have some areas that are unacceptable. We have 2 traffic signals, one at Main Street and 4 South, which obviously every night at 5 o'clock we seem to get backed up all the way through. It's because that roadway can't handle the amount of traffic coming through the intersection. And so we've tried to optimize with UDOT that traffic signal, but still that's an issue. And that's why other things like the 12th West Corridor is a good one to try and get people off the Main Street corridor as they're coming south, working with MAG on that. We also have areas where you have a level of service D, and I'm just bringing those in so you can kind of see where they are, up there by the Flying J. North Main Street, and even towards the roundabout in 4 South. We get a lot of traffic backing up.
How will the new traffic signal where the new high school road comes out and connects into 4 South impact this?
It will impact it. It'll do a couple things. A good thing it's going to do is it's going to break up the exact spacing of cars coming through the roundabout to where you can't get on. I'm trying to get out of out of our shop, for example, around 9th East is almost impossible sometimes because the cars are spaced exactly just close enough together to where you can't get out. So that signal is actually going to help in that it'll cue cars when the signal changes, and that'll give a gap further down the road for people to get in. Now, the flip side of that is we're going to make sure that that signal is synced with the one at Reams, with the one at 4th East at Brookside Gas Station, with the one at the museum, and then down into Main Street, so that when they do, you have a good pass-through going through. So there's pluses and minuses to that. Good question.
Okay.
Okay. A couple of the things that we updated in the master plan, there's 5 different areas. The first one is 2600 West was realigned. There's the mouse. In this area here. This will be a stretch because this area right here is the June sucker habitat, and it's going to be a long process to get that roadway across that habitat. But that's the only place it can go because there's not enough space on the frontage road to get a 5-lane road through. The other one is the high school changes. You've seen some of those happening right now. If you've walked down by the high school, they've got a new roundabout. We've got the intersection that Councilman Snelson talked about at 11th East on 4 South, and so we had to make some changes there. And then also roadways were added in the Dry Creek Plan area as that was put together. And then also intersection improvements on 16th South. And then the Lakeside Landing areas too, intersections. So those were updates in the master plan. So what you're adopting tonight is the master plan itself. And maybe just a quick discussion on the way the impact fee is set up. I wanted to make sure that I said this, and that is that we look at PM peak trip hours, right? And so in your staff report, and Jeff put this together, it's a really good staff report, is that we look at, how often somebody's coming and going. So for example, a car wash is going to have a lot of cars going through it, right? And so they're going to generate more traffic, and so their impact fee will be a little bit higher. If you're just a single family resident, you have less. And so the type of business they have, I think it's called the Institute, ITF, what is it, Jeff? Help me out. Yes, the Institute of Traffic Engineers. And so they actually have a factor that they can put with each type of business so that they're charged the appropriate. Because some businesses don't generate a lot of traffic, others generate a whole bunch.
So how does that work? Is it based on square footage of the parking area or the square footage of the building, or how do you know how much traffic a business has?
So it's actually based on historical and looking at those things, and they have a chart that says, like, for example, a drive-through has this amount of, it's kind of a range, or a single-family resident, or different types of businesses. So they use that factor, and in fact, there's a chart here that shows they have a factor that's a multiplier that helps you to put that together. And I didn't put that in the slide presentation. I probably should have. But to give you an example here, let me pull my glasses out so I can see what I'm doing.
What page are you on?
So page 9, for example, in your staff report, and just look at the ITE code of 210, and that's a single-family detached house. So it's page 9 of the staff report. And what it says there is it says the ITE trips are 0.94, but the ITE, it calculates trips of you going and coming back. And so what we do is we adjust that as one trip is when you're going. So you take that 0.94, and then you divide that by 2, you get 0.47. And then what we have here is that the amount of the cost per trip and the peak hour is $3,109. And so you're taking that $3,109 times 0.47, and that's how you get the $1,462 for a single-family resident. Now I circled something different in here, a different one. For example, if you have a pharmacy drugstore with a drive-through window, so that you take that 3,000 again, and it's times 0.95, which means that you're actually getting at least 2 trips per hour in that peak time. Because it was 3.74, okay? So they have a listing in here that you can go through, and each type of business has a certain factor that you can multiply it by. Does that make sense? Am I making sense on that?
Yeah, it makes sense, but it's still hard for me to wrap my head around. And this is, we're talking about the impact fee for that business, right?
Correct.
It's just hard for me to wrap my head around. Okay, so let's just say we got this new restaurant in town, Chubby's came to town.
Right.
That has so many square footage, they have a drive-through, they have so much parking area. Do they just take the restaurant thing on the chart and that's what they get charged?
Yes.
What if it's just a little teeny restaurant out on the Sage area, where it's a little teeny,
It's listed as a smaller restaurant.
so
it's broken
so they
down
do
in-
base it on size.
They do. They base it on use. Jeff can probably back me up on this. Help me.
If you look at that chart, there's a category, and then they have units, and they'll do a church, 1,000 square foot of gross area, or high school, it's the number of students. So they try to factor in what's going to be generating those trips. If it's a Smith's with a soup and everything in it versus a Chubby's, or if it's just a Little Caesars, stop and drop in, pull out versus a sit-down restaurant. They have all those mapped, they've gone and done studies of similar uses nationwide, and then they do attribute it to per square foot, or gas stations, number of pumps at the gas station, or the square footage of the convenience store associated with it. All those factor in, you take that, multiply it by that trip factor, and you generate an impact.
Is there a I don't know what to call it, a facility or some way that a business or an entity that's coming in can contest the impact fee and give proof as to why this national study is wrong for their business?
Yeah, in fact, state law requires that we have that in our ordinance. And so if you look at the enactment ordinance, a business can do a study, bring it in, and prove that what we are charging is wrong based upon the study. Now, there are some businesses that have done that because they have this similar business in other cities or even within our own city. And so they've been able to show that the trip generation is different for that business than what is actually in the study.
Okay, that's good.
That's paragraph 5B of your ordinance.
Perfect.
So, I mean, I like this because you're able to make sure that you're getting the right fee for the right type of business.
Sure.
So a lot of work has gone into this. So we're approving the master plan tonight, the impact fee facility plan, and then the IFA itself. The maximum allowable fee is $1461.62. This is where we sit with the other cities in the county. And our suggestion, or our recommendation from the staff, is to go with that maximum allowable fee.
Okay, additional questions for Brad? Yeah, and I think it's pretty, to Mike's point, I think that's a good point, that we are sensitive to size on a commercial side. It's good that you're doing that, so. Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Would anyone from the public like to make a comment?
I'll motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval then.
Well, seeing as nobody else is making a motion, I will. I'll make the motion to approve the 2024 Springville City Transportation Master Plan Impact Fee Facility Plan and impact fee analysis update prepared by Horrocks Engineers, and adopt ordinance number 24-2024, adopting the 2024 Springville City Transportation Master Plan impact fee facilities. Am I on the right one?
Yep. Yep.
Facilities plan and impact fee analysis, and enacting transportation impact fees.
Okay, I have a motion.
I'll second.
So roll call vote. Logan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Mindy?
Yes.
Craig?
Yes.
I think it's important for the public to know, since they're listening in, that these impact fees really make it possible for the costs which are associated with all of the development is really borne by, as it was explained by Brad and by our consultant here tonight, and has over the last number of meetings, that it's borne by the developing people rather than on the citizens, and I think that's just a fairer way to look at it. So I appreciate all the analysis, and again, just as a final note, I just encourage the staff to do that on an annual basis, and if it stays the same, it stays the same, but just look at it, because we need to make sure that's fair to the citizens of Springville. So, okay, other items that need to be brought up. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
A motion that we end this meeting.
Second?
Those in favor say aye,
Aye.
and who would oppose that? Thank you.